Hello and welcome. You're watching To The Point. With the Vasundhara Raje Scindia and Sushma Swaraj crisis continuing at boiling point, four critical questions are crying out for answers. First, does the BJP have a strategy for handling this problem, or is it simply floundering in denial? Second, does Vasundhara Raje Scindia have a credible defence that has not as yet been understood or even properly made? Third, contrary to the media's perception, is the case against Sushma Swaraj considerably stronger than the case against the Rajasthan Chief Minister? And fourth, what lies behind the Prime Minister's persistent but mysterious silence? Those are the issues we shall tackle over the next 1 hour. Joining me now for this critical discussion is the founding editor of TheWire.in, Siddharth Varadarajan, Times of India and pioneer columnist Swapan Das Gupta, the opinion page editor of the Indian Express, Vandita Mishra, Congress spokesperson Sanjay Jha, and BJP spokesperson GVL Narasimha Rao. Siddharth Varadarajan, let's first focus on Vasundhara Raje Scindia's handling of this crisis. In the two brief statements that she put out yesterday, in the first she claimed that electronic channels are airing unsubstantiated news. In the second she said that rumours were being spread that she had the support of 110 MLAs and could split the party if she was asked to resign, and that those rumours were baseless. Does that amount collectively to a defence? Or does it sort of subtly threaten the party when she talks about 110 people supporting her?
No, I don't think it would be... Vasundhara, is a smart politician, and for her to even contemplate a future through the route of splitting the party and taking MLAs with her is completely absurd. What I found significant about her statements was the fact that she has, by not speaking about the signed document, conceded now that the signature on those documents are genuine, and that this issue of her having given a witness statement for Lalit Modi is now incontestable. She could perhaps have chosen to defend why she issued such a statement. She chose not to. Perhaps she reckons that that act of hers is indefensible politically.
Or the defence is yet to be given.
Well, she's, in my view, then a poor politician if she has a defence which she hasn't given.
But you're sceptical of the argument put out in some press quarters that the reference to 110 MLAs is a sort of shot across the BJP's bows.
I mean, any MLA who wants to hitch themselves to her chariot when the party takes a clear line would be, it's an act of political suicide. I don't think that's going to happen.
Vandita Mishra, it's now widely being said practically on all the channels and several newspapers that there are many other celebrities and top people who have allegedly given witness statements in favour of Lalit Modi, and the list is supposed to include top businessmen, top editors, even some politicians, it's allegedly said. And in addition, if some of those politicians turn out to be people who have constitutional positions, as Vasundhara Raje Scindia did at the time, then surely the whole case being built up against her gets ameliorated or watered down considerably, because she's done something then that many other people have done, and arguably it can't be so bad.
I don't agree with that, Karan. I think if it turns out that other people who hold public office, public trust, who hold constitutional positions have signed similar letters of support, then I think the case against them becomes stronger rather than weakening the case against Vasundhara Raje. I think Vasundhara Raje cannot claim confidentiality as she did, that that it should be hidden from the government. If you go into that, that's a very grey zone. As a public figure, what is confidentiality?
So you're saying
and
that...
the second thing is...
can I just interrupt you? Can I interrupt you?
Yeah, her own government has not given him a clean sheet.
Can I interrupt? You're therefore saying that if other people like businessmen, editors and politicians are found to have given similar witness statements, it won't ameliorate things for Vasundhara at all. You don't accept that argument?
It will certainly not ameliorate things for Vasundhara, but there will be distinctions drawn between businessmen and a person who holds the status of the position of leader of opposition.
All right. Swapan Das Gupta, more than anyone else, you perhaps have a clearer idea of Vasundhara Raje Scindia's defence. Since the rest of the world is not certain, or is at least unclear, why don't you tell us and the audience what you believe her defence is?
Well, to begin with, I would agree with Siddharth to the extent that Vasundhara should have been far more forthcoming in defending or making public her positions. I think she made those public to members of the BJP core team and to Amit Shah and other senior leaders. But essentially it boils down to this, that there was a certain context in which that particular witness statement was signed, and that particular context was the period in 2011 when she was being hounded politically, and I use the word hounded quite deliberately, by the newly formed Gehlot government, and an attempt was also made to link her with Lalit Modi. It was in that context that she gave that statement and added that confidentiality clause, knowing fully well that if this came into the public domain, A, it would make it worse for her within India, and B, it would provide fodder for the tabloid press and other inquisitive things within Britain and create all sorts of murky controversy. The second element of defense, as far as Vasundhara is concerned, that I'm aware of, consists of this, that in British criminal or civil procedure, there are two steps. The first is the witness statement, which is basically the intent to depose before a judge, which is handed over both to to both sides in the case. Both the prosecution and defense both have it. However, that is mainly as an assistance to the task of cross-examination and the deposition itself. Now, the deposition never really happened. What really happened was that at a particular period in time, Vasundhara expressed a solidarity with the friend, but when the time came for the actual deposition to take place, she did not do so.
Okay.
And therefore, which is why that deposition does not constitute part of the court records. It becomes really a notional document in various sense. So these are the two aspects to the Vasundhara defense, which I think have been reasonably under-publicized. Whether they are good defense or not is not for me to judge. But for the moment, I think they appear to have persuaded the BJP leadership that she has a case, and it's not a watertight, open and shut case, which a section of the media would have us believe.
Sanjay Jha, let me put to you some of the key elements and points made there by Swapan Dasgupta, and a plausible defense that can be made out of that on behalf of Vasundhara Raje Scindia. First, she signed the witness statement in her personal capacity, not as leader of the opposition. Second, as a friend, she has a right to believe that Lalit Modi was being hounded by the Congress government, and that, after all, is a position practically all Lalit Modi's friends would have taken. Third, and this perhaps is important, the reason why she wanted her witness statement kept secret is because the UPA at that time was also hounding her. Proof of that is the UPA government created the Mathur Commission to investigate alleged instances of corruption against her. She had to go first to the High Court and then the Supreme Court to get that Mathur Commission declared illegal, unlawful and struck down. Now, she is very worried, understandably, that if she does anything that provokes further vindictive action by the UPA government, once again she'll be hounded. So, she said, keep my witness statement secret. Why is that not an arguable, credible, good defense?
Karan, I think Vasundhara Raje and all her advisors are skating on thin ice. Even if you are the leader of the opposition, I mean that position allows you the same perks and privileges of that of a cabinet minister.
But not
so
the
it
same
has
power.
been given
but
a
not
very
the same
serious
power.
status.
Please remember that.
Not
a
the
leader
same,
of opposition has no power.
Yeah. Absolutely, but you are an elected political representative. To that extent, whether you're in the opposition or whether you're in the government, there are certain privileges and responsibilities that come with the sheer fact that you are there as an elected member in the assembly. And the second point,
So
the proximity
I'm
between
interrupting
Lalit
you there
Modi
because this is very important. If you have certain privileges and perks, not power, and that's important to make that clear, privileges and perks, does that therefore mean you can't give a character statement on behalf of a friend? And you can't therefore argue that that friend was being hounded by the government? How do your perks and privileges come in the way of her giving a character statement?
But Karan, there are no immunities. You see, I mean, forget the fact, even if you are not elected, even I am, for example, as an ordinary citizen, or you as an anchor of the channel, if you and I are making declarations, official declarations, and telling people whatever the compulsions may be according to her.
But she's not making an official declaration. You see, Sanjay Jha, once again, you're bringing in words that don't apply. She's not making an official declaration. She's giving a personal statement. She's doing it in her personal capacity. After all, Vasundhara Raje Scindia, in addition to being leader of the opposition in Rajasthan, is also an individual. She happens to be a friend of Lalit Modi. She happens as a friend to believe that he was being hounded. She wants it kept secret because she herself was being hounded. Why is that not a credible defense?
Karan, I'll tell you why. You got to look at just two elements in that statement to find out why she's actually almost acted as the legal counsel for Lalit Modi. Now the whole world knows, and I was very active as part of the cricket fraternity that followed the big IPL scam. The whole world knows that he is absconding and living in London. What is the former Rajasthan Chief Minister and current Chief Minister
once again? You're using words without thinking of their implication and their meaning. He's not absconding. He's not wanted. There isn't a lookout notice for him. There isn't an arrest warrant for him. There is no extradition proceeding. He is simply failing to comply adequately with what the enforcement directorate would want. But as the court in India argued, he can comply by video conferencing, which the court said was perfectly acceptable. So even that claim that he's not complying needs to be qualified with the word adequately. So where does absconding come in?
No, Karan, that's not true. Here is a man whom the government did not expect will suddenly go away to London and will refuse to come and face the inquiries under the multiple
nothing to do with it. He has a right to go to London. He has a passport at the time. What's government expectation got to do with it?
Well, the truth is he was dodging the investigating authorities.
Well, he wasn't dodging, he was willing to comply. He was willing to comply. He appeared through his attorneys. He was willing to comply by video conferencing. And the High Court, when it returned his passport to him, said that his willingness to comply by video conferencing was sufficient at that stage, which is why they restored his passport.
Well, Karan, the truth of the matter is that he gave this big excuse or the pretext that he was facing a life threat. Well, the government always mentioned that they were willing to give him the protection provided he told where was he facing the life threat from.
Well, it's interesting that you say it's a big excuse. I don't want to make this a tutu meme between you and me. I'll go to the others in a moment's time.
I want to make one point.
The British authorities accepted, no, just a moment, the British authorities accepted that he faced security threats to his life, because that's the basis on which, having first rejected his permission to stay on in England after his passport was revoked, they then granted permission to stay on. So the British authorities accepted it, even if you, as a Congress spokesman, don't. Let me now at this point bring in others. Well, you've heard, let me bring in the others and I'll come back to you. You've heard the nature of defense that was made on Vasundhara Raje's behalf. Not made on her behalf, but that was suggested that could be made by Swapan. You've heard how I've encapsulated it into 4 points. How do you as an independent authority respond?
It doesn't add up at all.
Why?
I'll tell you why. As a politician who is allegedly facing persecution from her government, which is what Vasundhara Raje's friends would have us believe, and as a person who wants to show solidarity with another person who was being targeted for his association with her, as per her letter, as per her witness statement, all the more reason for her to fight it out openly. If she could challenge the Mathur Commission in court, she certainly could have raised this issue about Lalit Modi being unfairly targeted by the agencies in public, rather than making a secret deposition to a British court. I want to compare the treatment of Vasundhara by the BJP with that of a young woman called Priya Pillai, right, who makes a highly publicized, openly declared, she declares her intention to go to the UK to criticize an aspect of the government of India's functioning. She is stopped at the airport from traveling. Okay, Vasundhara makes a secret deposition, in a way casting, Swapan himself says, right, had it become public, it would create fodder for the tabloids, right? So she's going to say something which is going to embarrass India. And it's been 2 weeks, the government and the party refused to be critical about this. I find it astonishing.
Vandita, before I go to GV Narasimha Rao, the BJP spokesperson who's patiently waiting for his opportunity, let me put to you, as an independent person, how you respond to the sort of defense that Swapan Dasgupta suggested could be made, and the way I encapsulated it into 4 points. How do you respond to it? Does it bear credibility or does it not?
I agree with Siddharth, it doesn't wash. You know, if the argument is that he was being hounded, now what stops the BJP government today from issuing a clean chit? They have not done that for Lalit Modi. And if you get into public figures having the freedom to give these kind of personal confidential affidavits, then it's like I earlier said, it's a grey zone. It raises many thorny questions. What other confidential affidavits has Vasundhara given or other public figures given? Then we are into a completely new zone.
Give me something.
And I don't think that...
can I drop? Why can't public figures give confidential affidavits, whether it is to the Indian government or a foreign government? What's wrong with it? Why can't I, Karan Thapar, or you, Vandita Mishra, give a confidential affidavit about a third person who's a friend to the British government? It's not anti-national. It's not a breach of the law.
No, I think there's a difference between... I think there is a difference between Karan Thapar doing it, Vandita Mishra doing it, or the leader of opposition in the Rajasthan Assembly doing it. I think there's a difference between a minister doing it and a non-minister doing it. And Siddharth was giving the example of Priya Pillai. I'd like to give two more examples. In the last regime, two ministers had to step down on charges of impropriety. You know, there were no cases against them. There was Pawan Bansal, there was Ashwini Kumar. If the BJP was so vociferous demanding their resignation without a proper legal case against any of them, why is it shielding Vasundhara?
Okay, that's a very good point. Let's put that first to GVL Narasimha Rao before I go back to Swapan Dasgupta. Mr. Narasimha Rao, the key point being made here is that you cannot accept that Vasundhara Raje Scindia can distinguish herself into two people. LOP of the Rajasthan Assembly and Vasundhara the individual. The two collapse into one. Therefore, when she claims she gave this affidavit or the written statement in support of a friend in her individual capacity, she has no individual capacity. She is always leader of the opposition, and therefore the conflation of the two makes her position unviable. How do you respond to that first point?
I think the courts in UK were not going to consider this witness statement of Vasundhara Raje different from any other witness given by any other well-known journalist or a businessman. So that itself should explain to you that the leader of the opposition position did not have an exalted status as far as helping a friend was concerned. And coming back to our question, the point that Vandita Mishra raised, I think these are completely irrelevant comparisons. Pawan Bansal and even that law minister Ashwini Kumar, they were involved in corruption charges, or they were trying to protect the corrupt. They were trying to, one was trying to protect the Prime Minister from the Colgate scam in the Supreme Court. In the other case, Pawan Bansal was facing a case where tens of crores of money was extorted for rail position.
Because it could be argued that Vasundhara Raje was trying to protect a man who's alleged to be corrupt. The conclusion of that enforcement director's notice could well have been that he's corrupt. So don't take this example too far, it could end up working against you. Come back to my key point. Is it fitting for a woman who is leader of the opposition, as Sanjay Jha says earlier, who enjoys certain perks and privileges, even if you argue like me she doesn't have power, to be giving affidavits to a foreign government about a man who's not fully complying or adequately complying with an enforcement directed notice? Is that fitting and proper? Answer that.
Obviously, everything has a context. I think on the face of it, it may not seem proper, but given the background in which she was herself being hounded, and she says in the witness statement, presuming it to be real, presuming it to be verified, I'm making this comment. The very document says that not only was she being hounded, even he was being hounded because she was his friend. So I think you will have to see every action has to be seen in the light of the background in which the decision was made.
Swapan Dasgupta, I want to bring you in to answer a specific element of that answer from GVL Narasimha Rao. He began by saying, on the face of it, it might not seem proper, but then you have to see it in the proper context. would you accept that on the face of it, there is something questionable about Vasundhara Raje Scindia's behavior? When you hear the context, when you hear the background, it becomes less questionable. But the two mistakes she's made, one which I think you agreed with, was to be reluctant to put her defense in the public domain, as a result of which many more questions have arisen. And secondly, that perhaps because she was LOP, she should have in that document made it clear that she was giving this statement in her individual capacity, not as an LOP. She should have actually put that into the document.
I think you're entirely right about the second point about the putting that personal capacity, because after all, I think it's pretty well known that the relationship between Vasundhara and Lalit Modi was a personal relationship, particularly that of Vasundhara with Lalit Modi's wife. So it was in the nature of a favor, it was in the nature of some sort of an assistance he's giving to a friend who she believed has been brought into additional trouble because of the association with her. To that extent, I would say, yes, Vasundhara should have made that very, very categorical. I think, however, one other point which needs to be highlighted is that in the event, the British courts did not consider the witness statement of Vasundhara because she did not depose. What is the role of Vasundhara in getting an extension to Lalit Modi of his right to stay in Britain? I think the question becomes hypothetical. It becomes that of a person who might contemplate helping a murderer, but actually if the murder does not take place, or if something else happens, are you still guilty?
All right,
because
yes.
There is a notional evidence.
Although
here.
Once again, I forewarn you,
that's, I think,
the analogy about helping a murderer is a bit dangerous.
I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer.
Absolutely, I take your point. You're simply putting an argument across and an analogy, which I fully accept.
I'm just sometimes saying that the complexities, the particular procedures which operate in a particular country may seem unfamiliar to us, who, as we naturally are, we are familiar with our own procedures. And we should not naturally apply those procedures in toto to another context.
All right, that's a fair point.
I think Vasundhara should have been a little more explicit, or rather her spokespersons, whoever they may be, should have been a little more explicit in actually bringing these out into the public domain.
That's a very fair point, and what it points towards is the more politicians speak at the right time and say the right things, the more benefit they do themselves. Silence from a politician is always awkward. It always ends up being misinterpreted. Vandita Mishra, let's come to the situation facing Sushma Swaraj. Clearly, at the moment, the focus of the press, and it seems increasingly the focus of the Congress party, is on Sushma. Even popular opinion seems to be talking more about Vasundhara than Sushma. Does that mean that the pressure on Sushma has considerably diminished?
I don't think so. I think the revelations on Raje followed the ones on Sushma, so that is the more immediate case. But I think Sushma's is a serious case as well, because it involves two things. One is extending a favor to somebody like Lalit Modi, who faces charges, by cutting all procedures and processes. There is no evidence that she consulted with either the Home Ministry, the Finance Ministry, or even her own ministry before she extended this favor. And the second is the clear case of conflict of interest, with the fact that her daughter as well as her husband are in Lalit Modi's legal team. So I think her staying is completely untenable, and what Prime Minister has to think about is not just the cost of letting her and Raje go, but also the cost of letting them stay.
Absolutely. Let me build on the point, Siddharth, that you just heard from Vandita and put it like this. Arguably, the case against Sushma smacks of a higher level of impropriety than the case against Vasundhara. Standing character witness for a friend, which is what Vasundhara did, is neither a crime nor is it morally wrong. The only key question is, why did Vasundhara want to keep it secret? But helping a friend get a British travel document to circumvent the fact that your own government has revoked that person's passport, And when that person is an absconder or, to be more honest, not fully complying with your own government's enforcement directive summons, is surely a much worse level of impropriety. And that's what Sushma is guilty of.
I think all the more so because she is a minister at the time. She is heading the ministry, which is the nodal government body fighting Lalit Modi in his passport matter in the High Court. She also has husband and daughter who have represented or are representing Lalit Modi. There's also been an instance where she and her husband had interceded with Modi to seek favor for her nephew getting admission in a British university. So when you take the full picture and all of these connections together, and you add to the fact that she is a minister, I think
which Vasundhara wasn't.
Which Vasundhara wasn't, although in the Indian constitutional scheme of things, an LOP is part of the state in that sense. But I think, yeah, as a minister, certainly the degree of, shall we say, impropriety is much higher. You know, I've heard lawyers and opposition people speak of violations of the Prevention of Corruption Act. These are all much more serious things that need to be looked at.
Swapnil Das Gupta, let me go one step further. Sushma clearly abused her official powers to help a man who is both her husband's client and her daughter's client, to help a man who a year earlier had helped her nephew get a place in a British university. So three things follow which perhaps don't follow as clearly in Vasundhara's case. Firstly, Sushma is guilty of abuse of power. She was a minister when she did this. Secondly, there is a clear conflict of interest. She was helping her husband and her daughter's clients. And thirdly, there is a potential quid pro quo because she was helping a man who a year earlier had helped her nephew. Those 3 points clearly cannot be made with the same unequivocal forcefulness in Vasundhara Raje's case.
Well, I think, Karan, in both cases, there is a common feature. Lalit Modi was a personal friend of both Vasundhara, maybe a longer standing friend of Vasundhara, but she was a deep personal friend of the Swaraj family as well. And I think that probably explains the request of the admissions case. Now, it is also a fact that in hindsight, he's a most undeserving friend. I mean, it's rather that we didn't have friends like that. And I think much of the judgment which we are making today is colored by the nature of the friend as much as the indiscretions committed by these individuals. Thirdly, in the case of Vasundhara, the real issue is one of whether she should have disclosed this, whether she should not have put in that confidentiality clause or not. It hinges around that particular thing. I think the fact that she was doing it in a personal capacity is made more or less clear by the language of the affidavit. However, in the case of Sushma Swaraj, she is quite clearly guilty, and I've said this many times, of a violation of procedure. She short-circuited the procedure. Now that is what really the political class has to really deal with her. Whether this is a serious enough offense to warrant a resignation. Now, various people, even in the opposition, think it is, but there are still others in the opposition who also think it is not. That, okay, it's a lapse, maybe she deserves a rap on the knuckles, but it's not a resignable offense. Ultimately, I think we are today boiling down to questions of misjudgments and, in one case, a procedural impropriety, procedural lapse. Now, I think it's up to the political class as a whole to take a call on what they really feel about it. Are these...
Let me stop you there. You made your point very effectively. I want to bring in GVL Narasimha Rao, and I want to point out to you, Mr. Narasimha Rao, that what Swapan calls procedural impropriety could actually, as Siddharth Varadarajan was hinting a moment ago, be something much more serious. Arguably, Sushma Swaraj could be even deemed to have breached Section 13(1)(d)(3). I'll repeat that. Section 13(1)(d)(3) of the Prevention of Corruption Act. This is what the section says. A public servant is said to commit the offense of criminal misconduct if he, while holding office as a public servant, obtains for any person any valuable thing without any public interest. A British travel document is a very valuable thing, and there is no public interest fulfilled by helping Lalit Modi get it. So I come back to you and I ask, Sushma Swaraj, unlike Vasundhara Raje Scindia, arguably has breached section 13(1)(d)(3) of the Prevention of Corruption Act, and that is criminal misconduct.
I think, Karan, this is a call that the people in the party and the government have to make. And if anybody outside the party and government thinks anything has been done which is illegal, they can always take recourse to a legal remedy. But the party and the government, which have to take a decision about its own leader, have examined all the facts. She was very forthright in giving out the facts or accepting it as and when they came out in public domain. So a quick decision could easily be made, and the party and the government, with the full knowledge of the facts, have come to the conclusion that what she did and the intent with which this was done cannot be therefore considered to be improper. So that verdict from the party and government is completely unambiguous. Okay. So there is really no reason for the party to look back, and there are no more facts that have emerged to make that position, to review that position at all.
Sanjay Jha, I'm going to pick up on the last part of Mr. Narasimha Rao's answer. There is no reason or purpose for the party or the government to look back. And the reason there is no reason to do that is because your party, the opposition Congress, has failed to argue the point against Sushma Swaraj. You should have been the one in public platforms raising the argument that she's breached section 13(1)(d)(3), but you didn't. You just made one casual reference to it and forgot. And secondly, instead of focusing on Vasundhara Raje Scindia, where arguably the defense is quite good and credible, you should have been focusing on Sushma Swaraj, where the defense is not credible, where the charges are greater, and where the charge of criminal misconduct arguably could have been made. So what I'm putting to you is this: you're going after the wrong lady. If you want a scalp on the Congress's mantelpiece, target Sushma. Her head could fall into your lap. Vasundhara's is unlikely to do so. You've picked the wrong target.
No, Karan, I disagree with you. I can tell you that I agree with what Vandita said. You know, there's a sequence. On Sushma Swaraj, there is absolutely no doubt whatsoever that there is a commonality actually between both Sushma Swaraj and Vasundhara Raje. They are both guilty of willful indiscretion. Secondly, whatever their personal family equations with Lalit Modi, there's been an attempt to conceal facts from the government of India by both Sushma Swaraj not telling her foreign secretary office itself, concealing it from the expertise of the IFS and the bureaucrats that she had at her will and call. She never even consulted them before trying to use her offices to try and influence the British government for a visa document for Lalit Modi. And as far as Vasundhara Raje is concerned, you know, Karan, let me just tell you that Lalit Modi, end of day, was considered to be the man who was running the Rajasthan government at that point of time when she was the chief minister in her earlier tenure.
Well,
and look at her affidavit.
Hang on a moment. Prime ministers or chief ministers being run by someone else is a common theme with UPA too. Manmohan Singh, it was said, was run by Sonia Gandhi. That's a strange thing for you to say as criticism. Karan, I come back to my key point. What I'm saying is this: if you want a scalp, and all opposition parties would love to have a big scalp, you're going after the wrong lady. Pick on Sushma, argue that she's breached section 13(1)(d)(3), insist that that be looked into, and you might find the Prime Minister buckling under. But the more you go after Vasundhara, who has a credible defense, the less you're going to succeed.
Karan, let me answer. I don't think Vasundhara Raje has a credible defense. She will have to go. Don't ignore the Dushyant Singh quid pro quo with Lalit Modi. I think investigation will establish something very serious there. As far as Sushma Swaraj is concerned, I don't think we are targeting. I think it's very obvious whether it's Prevention of Corruption Act, whether it's Prevention of Money Laundering Act, Passport Act, the FEMA Act, the fact that India's External Affairs Minister took the decision she did, and perceptibly by not engaging with other colleagues in the Ministry of Home Affairs, I think that itself raises serious questions.
All right.
And I think the larger issue, Karan, is did the government consult? Who talked? Who was aware before they took the decision not to take a High Court verdict to the Supreme Court?
You, as a spokesman of your party, have a right to choose your strategy. You have a right to choose your priority. If you wish to target Vasundhara rather than Sushma, even though I'm saying to you, you'd be more successful if you did it the other way around. That's your prerogative. I was simply questioning that if you want to scalp, choose the other lady.
No, but Karan, I think both
you are
should
right,
resign.
and you're entitled to target who you want.
Both need to resign for a fair, independent investigation.
Okay, let's move on.
Both must resign for a fair, transparent, independent investigation.
Let's move on. Vandita Mishra, let's come to the Prime Minister's handling of this crisis, which is clearly the worst crisis he's faced in the 13 months since he became Prime Minister. What do you make of his prolonged, mysterious silence? Does it suggest that he thinks this will soon blow away and therefore there's no need for him to say anything? Or is he silent because he simply can't think of what to say?
I think he's done some kind of a cost-benefit analysis, and to him it seems that it could seem that the opposition would be emboldened if any of these ministers go, and that his government after 1 year would be hobbled by that. But I think what he's not looking at is the cost of letting them stay. Because, if last year the biggest criticism that you could make about the Modi government was that it had let the Hindutva fringe speak too long and too loud. And although even that was, it was not really the fringe, because you had people like Yogi Adityanath, who's an MP, or Sadhvi Niranjan Jyoti, who's a minister. But you could still say that these people do not represent the mainstream of the BJP. If that was the biggest criticism last year, now, after 1 year, if Sushma Swaraj and Vasundhara Raje do not go, then the criticism is going to move to the heart of the party and the government, because Vasundhara and Sushma cannot be dismissed as the fringe at all. I mean, cannot be described as a fringe.
Is the Prime Minister's silence clever strategy? And if it is, what is the strategy? Or does it reflect that he too has possible links to Lalit Modi, as Lalit Modi's tweets about connecting the Rajasthan Royals to the Gujarat Cricket Board seem to suggest?
Well, that would be pure speculation on my part. So I would like to look at this as an analyst, quite frankly, and look at the politics behind Modi's silence. I mean, I know Lalit Modi has tweeted, and there are connections between cricket administrators, but let's leave it at that. For Mr. Modi, the problem from day one has been, how do you allow Sushma Swaraj and later Vasundhara to be sacrificed when you've just proclaimed at the end of your first year that Achhe Din means the end of the bad old days of cronyism and corruption and so on. So I think he was very clear that from day one, in order to protect the image of the government, we have to protect Sushma, we have to protect Vasundhara. What he didn't bank on is something which is happening now, that in order for you to then protect these two women, you have to mount a defense of Lalit Modi, which is that to say, well, his offences aren't that bad, it's only a FEMA violation.
That's where he trips up.
And in the eyes of the public, you can make all the legal arguments you want, that there's no blue collar notice. In the eyes of the public, Lalit Modi is precisely the kind of gentleman that you associate with the cronyism and corruption of the previous regime. So why on earth would Mr. Modi want to defend this man is something that I think Mr. Modi has to ask himself.
Swapna Dasgupta, we're running terribly short of time. I'm going to ask you for a really short answer. And the question is this: do you believe that there is a strategy behind the way the BJP leadership is handling these two twin crises? Or are they somewhat floundering around, grappling for one?
I don't know the complete answer to that question, Karan. But if you were to ask what might explain the Prime Minister's reluctance to plunge into the waters of this controversy, I would say that he, in the end, is asking one fundamental question. One, should cricket be allowed to derail the politics of the country? Number two, he's asking a more fundamental question: who rules India, the government or the media?
Okay.
Now, I know this is a very, very awkward one to ask especially as some of us have slightly elevated notions of our own importance. But I think that question is somewhere being asked. Whether this is a relevant question, whether this is a question he can get away with or not, is something we will have to see. But I suspect
can I stop
somewhere in the background, this question is being asked.
All I'm going to point out, Sanjay Jha, and this is not in refutation of Swapan, is that whenever the media is exposing top politicians, be it here, America, or in England, the people in power in their defense can raise that question: who runs this country, the media or the government? But when the media has an expose, the media is going to push it. Now, in this instance, the question I want to ask you, and please give me a short answer because we're running out of time, is how far will you take this as an opposition? And are you prepared to hold up the Rajya Sabha in the monsoon session? A short, sharp answer, please.
Karan, we have said so publicly. I'll repeat it again. I'll keep it very crisp. We expect the government, we expect Prime Minister Modi to demand and get the resignation of both the Rajasthan Chief Minister Vasundhara Raje.
And what happens if they haven't been obtained? What happens if they haven't been obtained and Parliament starts for the monsoon session? Answer that.
Well, I can tell you, if this government is going to be so thick-skinned and brazen as to believe that corruption is a non-issue in this country, then on behalf of the people of this country, we'll take to the streets and we will raise up this issue in Parliament. Okay. And I'm sure all the opposition parties will be on the same page.
Mr. Narasimha Rao, you're not just risking the monsoon session, as Sanjay Jha has just made crystal clear. You're also risking your critical legislation. You're risking the image of the NDA government. And most importantly of all, you're risking the image of the Prime Minister who stands up for transparency, accountability, achhe din, and corruption-freeness. Is it really worth going so far for two ladies who already in the public eye are guilty?
I'm sorry, I didn't get your last part of it.
Is it worth going so far for two ladies who are already in the public eye deemed guilty?
Okay. I think it's not a question of sacrificing one leader or two leaders. The question is what are the allegations? It's not the same as the allegations that were made out against the leaders of the Congress party as the ministers of the UPA government. That's the point that our ministers made yesterday. Repeatedly, you've heard that from 3-4 cabinet ministers. So we cannot be blackmailed by the opposition. We will not succumb to frenzy in the media. I think we will certainly stand our ground.
Okay.
And we know there are a large number of regional parties which really understand what is governance all about, and we certainly hope to get support from them.
The interesting thing, and I'm simply saying this as a comment, not as editorializing, that many people will think what you're really saying is our guilty are not as guilty as they're guilty. Our guilty are our people. That's why we're going to protect them. They're guilty are not our people. That's why we went for them. All right, you have a right to take that position. Whether people find it convincing is another matter. My thanks to all four of my guests for joining me and to Siddharth for coming to the studio. And there we end this episode. Goodbye.